tell me who Satellite City is and when did you guys get started?
So
Go for it.
we got started in 2018, and that was the year we got started, right?
A little earlier, but
Well, I would say, Satellite City started in like 2017,
yeah.
probably, as like an acoustic band, and then in 2018, Sean convinced me to start drumming and singing. Cause before I was like playing cajon in the band, I've always been a drummer, but I never like sang and drummed at the same time. So like as like a full-fledged rock band, it was like 2018 when we played our first shows. And
2017 December is when we played our first show.
okay,
Yeah.
sorry. He has better memory than me. But yeah, after that we just kind of like evolved and created our sound, and he mixed like some heavier like metal elements from his previous projects. I came from like more of like an acoustic singer-songwriter background, like really prioritizing lyrics and melodies, and we just kind of created our sound like that.
It's a good mix. And I did notice, I do remember watching a video too and watching you drum and sing, and I was like, oh, that's different. Like, there are a few out there, but not a lot of drummer singers. And uh, knowing the duality of it, like I also do vocals. I would not call myself drummers. I've never owned a drum kit, nothing like that. But like I do fiddle around on drums, and and even with guitar or bass, like being able to play an instrument and sing, and especially with drums because it's such a timing thing, and like you're using different parts of your brain to do different stuff. I've always found it to be very impressive. So uh, it's cool, and the fact that you're a two piece, and when you listen to it, I don't know if like when you record stuff, is it just you guys, or is there other people, or
Yeah, when we record, it's just me and Anna. I do the guitar, I do the bass, Anna does vocals and drums. Sometimes I'll do like backing vocals. Sometimes our producers will like throw some keyboards on there. But it's mainly just us two.
yeah.
And then live, we usually have more members. I don't know if you've seen pictures of the full band. We have like anonymous members on stage called spacewalkers, and they play like all the different instruments. So we have like a fuller sound live with a second guitarist, bass player, keyboard player. Our last show, we actually had a saxophone player, which was interesting because we had to figure out a way for him to have a mask on, but like play sax.
Like the mouth part had to be open, so it was fun to try to pull that off.
I love the saxophone element too. Just a couple months ago, I was talking to my mom about that. We were out driving, and in the '80s especially, there was a lot of like saxophone solos, and I was like, man, that's such a missing element nowadays. Like, because they're so cool. Like, I wish it was still a thing. And I don't know, like what you're using the saxophone for in your stuff, but just hearing saxophone anyway is cool. So I like that.
Yeah,
Spacewalker,
our
right?
song Spacewalker, which is the first single off of our EP. Um, what EP's coming out
September
September
27th. Yeah.
7th, yeah. That song, we had an idea to have like just like horns, right?
I think we had like sax, a trumpet, and like a trombone. On like there's like a post riff part where like kind of matches the guitar riff.
And at first we just kind of like had it programmed, but when we were working with David Bottrell, who produced it, he was like, no, we got to get the live players in and record it live. So we did that, which was really cool. And then at our last show, we were like, why don't we just bring one of them back on stage to play it with us?
Yeah, it was like a cool element. I think the crowd appreciated it.
Is there plans in the future for the spacewalkers to be like officially part of the band or recording or anything like that?
Yeah, I think we're open to that. Um, I think definitely part of the recording. I like that idea just to add like another kind of brain to help bring the songs to life, especially if we're like if you're feeling like the song is missing something, get a friend to like hop on there and like throw some guitar, throw some saxophone, fuck it. Uh
Yeah, we have had like different players play a few parts on different songs, and then recently we've been doing like a lot of co-writes, not necessarily with the band members, but just with like other writers, which has been fun, just getting more people in the room and bouncing ideas off of other writers.
Sure.
yeah, that was new for us. So that was a fun way to approach songwriting because we hadn't done that yet before.
So tell me about the idea or the concept for the spacewalkers and the name and how that came about.
I think we kind of wanted to have like another like theatrical element on stage. Like I was never a fan of the two-piece bands on stage, just two people. Some bands pull it off. I just thought we would sound like more epic with more members on stage. Um, so I think when we kind of had the idea to write a comic too, it kind of all came together of having these members in astronaut costumes called our spacewalkers. Um, I don't. It didn't really start off as a joke, but it started off like as a silly idea. Like, what if we gave that a shot? Like, would people be like, "What the hell's going on?" Or would they take it seriously? Uh, and of course, it's not to be taken like super seriously, but it's more like a fun element just to, have fun with the crowd, interact with the crowd. Um,
I think also like Sean coming from like his metal background with a bunch of band members, uh like he felt like it would be easier to navigate through a band just like us too, and then we just have like session players, or like we hire members to come in and out, and depending on availability we've rotated out players. A lot of them are like friends that we've had for a while. Some are like brand new depending on the show, like and scheduling and that, so it's fun to like have that flexibility as well. And then the concept of the comic book, we call it Spacewalker. It's tied in with the EP, and we just kind of thought it'd be cool to like create a whole origin story around the spacewalkers. And so it's like a fictional story, sci-fi fantasy that we wrote together, and we wanted to like really highlight them and give them more of like a world that we were like creating for them.
That's pretty awesome. Like that's cool, and I like the name too, Satellite City. When I kept seeing it in the emails, I was like, that's just a cool name, like it sticks out. So, uh,
Thanks, man.
where did Satellite City come from?
Satellite City came from actually, we were listening to different songs, trying to get inspiration for a band name, and a song came up by Metric called Satellite Mind.
Mhm.
And there's this concept that like my mom and I talk about, is like communicating with people like
Telepathic.
telepathically, like, and that satellite mind idea like kind of got me thinking about that, and just like a world where people can communicate that way, which also now ties back into our comic and the story in there. But originally it was just that idea of like a world where people can communicate telepathically.
Right. Is there you said it's fictional, but is there elements of like your story, like your actual story, your real life stuff, like that are part of the comic story?
I would say there's like so we're Armenian, we're Armenian Americans, and I would say we added some like Armenian elements in the comic, like very subtle, very like symbolism, um, but nothing really about like
We're not
out,
in it.
yeah,
We like created a whole world with characters.
There have been some bands who make themselves like the character in the comic, and like I wanted to purposely avoid that because I thought it was like a little corny,
Yeah.
and I thought it's cooler just to like come up with a different like fantasy sci-fi world and just write it like a fun little story, you know. So I think that's the approach we wanted to take and kind of get ourselves out of it as much as possible.
So then, uh, you got the EP coming out soon. What is the rest of this year and next year looking like for you?
Yeah. So we actually got a booth at LA Comic Con for the first time. That's going to be first weekend of October. We're going to be showcasing our comic and all our merch there for the first time. Um, that's going to be really fun. And yeah, what else we got going on in October?
That's October. Just really like pushing the comic, trying to get it into like different stores. And then
Ideally, we'd like to make more issues of the comic because we have five like scripts, but we only were able to afford like creating one of them because it was super expensive.
yeah, we
So
might launch a Kickstarter. We're not sure yet.
yeah, maybe launch a Kickstarter
But
to do more issues of this comic that we're excited about.
Uh,
and then we have other singles as well that are like waiting to be released. So more music to come for sure.
Sitting on a bunch of songs. Yeah.
it's not a bad problem to have.
Yeah, for sure.
When you first started started the band, I guess. When did you know that you had the chemistry to like want to do this and move forward and take it seriously?
Well, she showed me a few of her songs that she'd written on like acoustic guitar or ukulele, and I was super impressed with her songwriting and the way she writes vocal melodies and her lyrics like were really like poetic, and I was like, this is really, really cool. Have you ever thought about, being in a rock band, like actually like drumming and singing? Um, I don't know if you thought of it like before then to drum and sing, if that idea ever came to you actually.
No, I played drums in bands before, but I never like did both. I definitely feel like the singing, I started singing more around the time when we met. And so like the idea of combining the two was like something you gave me that idea. But prior to writing music together, we were actually dating. We're currently married. So um I think the chemistry was just kind of naturally there. And then Chant was like in a pretty serious band that ended up not working out. And I think that's when we shifted gears and started putting a little bit more focus into this project. Uh, it just kind of happened naturally.
Yeah.
And we had a bunch of songs and we were like, let's start recording them.
Yeah, for sure.
So vocally and drummer wise, what are some of your biggest inspirations and influences?
Vocally, I would say I grew up like singing to a lot of, I know this is like a lot of people will say this, but like Paramore was like the band I grew up uh just singing to, and like Haley Williams was a pretty big inspiration. I don't think our music sounds anything like them, but definitely was an artist that I looked up to as a vocalist. And then drumming wise, like one of the first drummers I loved was like Trey Cool, I would say, when I was super younger, and then like Steve Gadd, and just kind of mixed in like funk and different things like that. Like I love Chad Smith's drumming. We're like more rock, but I like to like bring in like some like funkier elements as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So then, what about you with guitar?
Yeah, man, I listen to like a lot of different kind of subgenres of rock, you know. Um, I'd say I really started getting into rock music with like Tool, Linkin Park, and System of a Down. Those were like maybe the big three for me, and then I got into like more progressive metal, bands like Opeth or like Swedish metal bands. Um, I, I really resonate with that now. Probably right now, what I've been really listening to is a lot of like Sleep Token, Spirit Box, um, but kind of all over the place with the umbrella of rock regarded, you know.
It's such a huge umbrella anyway. So
Yeah, yeah. You know, I'm
thanks.
not one of those picky metalheads, you know. If it's good songwriting, you know, I'll probably dig it.
Yeah. So coming from a metal background and going into Satellite City, um, how was your focus on like kind of shifting genres a little bit?
I think it was okay. It was sometimes I had to intentionally not play metal riffs while writing.
Yeah, I know
Um
it's hard.
because I'm pretty used to that and I was used to that for so long. But now I feel like I'm at a point where even if I do write like a pretty heavier riff, I'll be like, how can I integrate that in satellite, whether it's like breaking down the riff, playing a part of the riff, and you know, a part of that metal riff becomes the whole satellite riff, or just kind of thinking outside the box a little more. I think that's been the biggest challenge for me. Um, but yeah, just having fun, man. Just having fun. I think listening to a lot of subgenres of rock also helped me because I'm not only fixated on metal.
Right. And as you said earlier, being Armenian Americans, how is a band like System? How has that inspired you?
Pretty massively. I mean,
They're like almost the prime example, you know, like
I mean, fucking, I'll show you right here, man. Like,
yeah, awesome.
like I grew up with it, and you know, I had an older sibling, and she introduced me to System, and ever since then, I was like, wow, holy shit! Like, a band that's Armenian nonetheless, you know, representing my culture, playing music that's fantastic, and like I'm really resonating with it, and I definitely credit them for me wanting to do what they're doing for sure.
And they're also like super outspoken, and they shed light on a lot of issues that have happened in Armenia, and I think that has definitely inspired us to like create a few music videos around topics like that. So yeah, it's just cool to see that in the mainstream.
So I would take it then that if you were ever able to collaborate with them in some type of way, whether it be a song or a tour or a show or an event of some sort or an idea, um, they'd probably be top of the list, huh?
That's the dream, man. That's the dream, honestly. Serge was kind enough to share our music video on his Instagram a few years ago, and that was really nice of him.
Awesome.
Um, so yeah, maybe opening for them in the future, that would be great.
Especially there in LA, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, sure. It helps.
a lot of Armenians here in LA.
Oh, yeah. I'm from there too, originally. So, uh, of course, today is a certain specific day in our history. And for me, it is reminding me of it because of System of a Down, because I was 14 when 9/11 happened, and 9/11 was my second day of high school,
Oh
and
wow.
as a freshman, and you know, toxicity was like happening all at the same time. So kind of it's all blended together for me, and great memories, of course, but also strange is a very interesting time, of course. And how for you, um, how has your upbringing and culture and where you live, how has that influenced you lyrically or personally or musically?
That's a good question.
Yeah, take it or
Um, you stumped me, man.
Yeah.
Well, I would say, okay, I'll say this. Recently, I think we wrote a song about, well, we're currently writing a song about, how difficult it is to break out in the music industry. And a lot of that has to do with living in Los Angeles and how saturated the market is in LA.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't even blame these music industry professionals, these managers, because how are they supposed to understand if a band is really good or not, unless they go out and see them live, obviously. But the numbers don't really matter. Um, um, I still think talent, how to judge a band is going to see them live and seeing if they have talent. Um, so I think that's the one negative of LA, the saturation. Uh, Not to say if you lived somewhere else in America that would be easier. I oftentimes think it's kind of a roll of the dice.
it's a negative and a positive because the positive I would say is that so many bands come through here and because we're local, we have opportunities to like hop on as openers sometimes for shows.
Yeah.
Whereas if we were like in a smaller town, it might not be as possible. Um, but yeah, it's definitely oversaturated. So there's that. And then like as far as like our Armenian like background bleeding into the music, I definitely hear it in like his guitar, like just the melodies he writes sometimes on his guitar sound like that. I don't think vocally we do like I definitely hear it in System's vocals. I don't hear it as much in ours. I feel like because we were both like just brought up here, born
Very,
and raised
very
in LA,
Americanized.
like
Yeah.
our stuff sounds more like the bands that we were influenced by, but you can hear like little Armenian elements in
Yeah.
his
There's
guitar playing.
there's some elements of like some like aggressive guitars like System used to do, sure. Um, I think yeah, if you pay attention, you'll definitely hear that.
It's good answers. So I'm gonna pretend that I'm not from LA and ask if someone was coming to LA other than the typical touristy stuff, what would you recommend to someone to go and see and experience, whether it be food or culture or history or whatever it may be? What would you recommend?
One of my favorite spots is a little Tokyo because I love Japanese culture. Um, and all of LA is a melting pot anyway.
Hmm.
So um, I miss hanging out there, and I'd probably take a guest there and just spend a day there and maybe go to like Amoeba for some vinyl shopping. It's
Yeah,
I
always fun. What
miss
about
it
you?
true.
so much.
Yeah.
I do.
We've been going to Grand Central Market a lot. It's a little crazy, but the tacos are bomb. Yeah, we have really good Mexican food in LA. Like literally any truck off the street, I would
Just the
say.
street trucks, man. Yeah. It's quality dining. It
Absolutely.
really
And sushi. We both love sushi, and I feel like the best sushi spots are in LA.
I think it's cool to immerse yourself in so many cultures, but you're still in Los Angeles. I think that's really cool.
I agree. And speaking of that, um, where all like what's the furthest show that you've played away from LA?
Uh, probably like Northern California, right? Where was the furthest?
We're so bad with
Oh
directions.
my God. We're embarrassingly bad. Probably like three to 4 hours north from LA.
Okay.
Yeah. Not
Yeah,
not quite San Francisco, but almost at San Francisco.
you haven't
Yeah.
had any like big tours yet.
No, we've only played California. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you ever want to play Vegas, um, I know who to hook you up with. So
Thanks, man. I'd love to.
let me know for that, because there's a lot of the good clubs have closed down, but at the same time, new stuff has opened. And I've only been gone for almost a year now, and I think that there's been a couple more places that have opened. So, but there's, like with LA on a smaller scale, there is a good music scene and a lot happening, but it's also, like you said, not as saturated, but there's a lot of competition there. And
Yeah, for sure.
but at the same time, people just want to see music. They just want to see live music and entertainment. So that's all that really
We've
matters.
talked about playing Vegas a few times, so that's a place that I feel like would be easy for us to drive, you know.
Oh
I've
yeah.
heard good things about Count Vamped. I don't know if that venue is still open,
Oh yeah.
but
I don't think that one's going anywhere.
that would be fun. Yeah, for sure.
Um, yeah, I'd recommend Band for sure. Uh, for the people who have been with you guys since the beginning, the fans and friends that have been with you all along the way, for the fans that have yet to hear about you, what do you say to them?
Well, thank you for uh following us this far so far. Um, and hopefully, we'll play to you guys in person soon, and people get an opportunity to check us out and form their own opinion, and hopefully they dig us.
Yeah. I mean, we're gonna continue grinding, putting ourselves out there on social media so more people could find us. And the goal is to hopefully tour across the world and, get to meet more people.
First step is out of California, and then the
Yeah.
world.
Right.
And then the world.
So step into Vegas, and then the rest of the world is yours. There you go,
Yeah.
Sure, for sure.
guys. I wanna thank you for your time, and I'm sorry for being a little late.
No worries,
No
man.
worries.
No worries. Thank you. We had fun.
I appreciate you, and I'll be watching along like everyone else, and I'll be waiting for the EP. And if you ever head out here to the Midwest, or if I go back home, I'd love to see you.
Awesome, man. Thank you, brother.
Thank you so much.
All right,
So
guys.
nice.
Nice meeting you, bro.
Appreciate you, man. See you.